Back here with Eastern Shore Talk Around Town, we have Tristan Castle. Tristan, 3 real quick questions. Number 1, what does self-care mean to you?
Self-care to me means taking care of myself physically, mentally, spiritually, those 3 elements.
And what's one thing you do for self-care consistently?
Well, here at the gym, I make sure that's on my checklist just about every day. And then also I like to get down with my Bible, read, journal on it.
Awesome. And last question, what's something you've been watching lately or something you're looking forward to watching?
I am looking forward to watching, there's a new Venom movie, superhero movie, and just finished watching Bad Monkey on Apple TV. It's kind of a comedy. I like watching those with my brothers.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. And guys, check us out next time on Eastern Shore Talk Around Town. Take care, guys. Welcome back again, guys. This is Eastern Shore Talk, your podcast for all things self-care and movies. If this is your first time, thanks for tuning in. We are on episode 37. I'm Jay Watson.
And I'm Cathy Castle.
And Cathy and I are going to tackle something a little interesting tonight because it's something that Cathy got me into about this time last year. And that's we're going to spill the tea about tea. And not just about tea itself, although we're going to certainly cover that pretty exclusively, but just the fact that something as small and simple as making a cup of hot tea can be good self-care. So we're going to jump into that in just a minute. But first thing we want to do is, as we normally do at the beginning of our podcast, is do a little check-in. So tell me about the Castle this week.
Castle. You know, the kids were excited last night because they were watching something, probably sports on or whatever, and there was a castle on there spelled the same way, but it's that Sam Cassell. I was his birthday.
Cassell, coach, yeah.
So they were like, yeah. Anyway, Marty and I had gone to Thursday and Friday. Marty and I had gone to a work retreat in Southern Maryland. So it was interesting because it was on the water, but opposite of what we have, right? Yeah. I mean, that sounds really silly, but I'm like, this is weird because I'm used to our water that's on the other side of this side. Yeah. Sun's all off and weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a 2-day retreat to talk about, the current state of mental health and workforce crisis and all those depressing topics. And then the smallest castle, which is really not the smallest castle, turned 18 yesterday. So we celebrated him all weekend, some family and good food.
So everybody in your family can vote now.
Yes, I always tell my kids 18 means nothing except you can get thrown in jail. That's about it.
Yeah, you can vote. Buy cigarettes, or is it 21 for cigarettes?
It's 21 for cigarettes.
Oh, okay.
And he just missed the voting by a week.
Couple weeks. Yeah.
How about you? What you had going
on? Something very important happened Friday. It's an annual thing. It's a big deal for me.
Yeah.
I turned the Christmas station Holly on in the store full time. So if you come into Ken Island, Abbey, Flores, and Easton, you'll hear the Holly channel from now until after the New Year's. And I decorated the store Friday. So
wait, Holly might cut off early. Holly might cut off.
I think it's the 26th.
We should boycott that. They should go to I think they should go all the way to the New Year.
You can actually go on the Sirius XM app and listen to. There's one of those Christmas channels that's all year round, but you got to go on the app. Yeah, it's on the app only. That's always a big deal. I always look forward to it. In October, I started trying to figure out when the day was when they were going to release the Holly channel. So
that's our favorite. Holly.
Yeah. Now I've got Holly, I've got the Hallmark Christmas music, and I've got holiday traditions in my car. And right now, my car, I scroll around, so it's not full time. I don't think it'll be full time in my car ever, as much as I love the music, because for 8 hours every day, I listen to it in the store. So when I'm in my car, I don't need it as much. So I've got my fill during the week. So, and every customer that's come in and said, "Oh, is that Christmas music playing already?" I've a couple of them are like, "Oh, I love Christmas music." A couple of them are like, "Oh, it's way too early." So it's everybody has different thoughts on how soon do we officially start playing Christmas music. I mean,
Yeah,
I think Halloween's kind of the cutoff for me. If they released it earlier, I would just do it earlier. But yeah, now it's officially full time in the store, and I hung my red, green, and gold glass balls from the ceiling throughout the store, so the store is decked out for the holidays.
well, since Thanksgiving is late this year, it's like you got to get your Christmas on before Thanksgiving almost, so you can have the full month because we need the full month,
Yeah, it's going to turn around quick. The
right?
turnaround between Thanksgiving and Christmas is going to feel quick.
So
Um,
not feel cheated, I would say.
yeah.
Start early.
I'll tell you, we've been talking about cooking different things. I made spaghetti this weekend,
Yeah.
um, and I love spaghetti. I love Italian food in general, but I've stayed away from spaghetti specifically because the canned sauces are so high in sodium. I got to stay away from that. So I can't even remember last time I had spaghetti. So I thought, well, I'll try to make some homemade sauce with some lower sodium options. And I did that, and it was decent. There's nothing like a good old can of ragu with all the sodium and all the
No,
bad stuff.
I don't do that. No. Tell me what you put in. I have to have homemade sauce.
Well, I did a low sodium tomato sauce from it's called tortillas, and then I did some crushed tomatoes, low sodium crushed tomatoes. Um, I did green peppers. I did sweet onions. I did um, uh, red pepper flakes. I did black pepper, and I did a little bit of garlic powder. I'm not a big. I don't like a lot of like strong. I like a little hint of garlic, but I'm not strong garlic. But I think it wasn't bad. But I think the low sodium just it kind of lost its funk because it's low sodium. It was good for me, but it wasn't as good as I've had before, just from a can straight. You know what I mean?
You know what tomatoes I love for it, but they're a little more expensive, is I think I'm saying them right. San Marzano
Hmm.
tomatoes. Have you seen them? They're whole tomatoes and I crush them up, but
Yeah.
they're a little sweeter. And then I have a couple secret ingredients if I haven't said this before. One is chicken broth, a little bit of chicken broth,
Mm.
and that better than broth paste, and carrot. I put some bigger chunks of carrot in there to sweeten it up.
Okay. Now what I do is I like bread with my food, so I take bread and I put it in the toaster, and I put butter, and then I take garlic salt and
Yeah.
make my own kind of version of garlic bread, kind of like a you know like an easy way to make garlic bread, and do that. And I do like I do with goulash. I make it like
Yeah.
I make a spaghetti sandwich with those two pieces. I'll take one slice and I'll put a little bit of sauce and spaghetti on it, fold that piece in half, and eat half of the sandwich with spaghetti, and do that with the second piece, and then eat the rest of my spaghetti.
That's
Um,
fun.
so I've been eating that the last couple of days. And like I said, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't. I think the low sodium everything just um, kind of took away from it. And um, I could probably. I didn't want to go too much with the red pepper flakes because I don't like hot. I
Hi.
could do a
Yeah.
yeah. I could do a little bit of hot. I don't think I put enough in there to even notice. So, but it's always you can always add. You just can't subtract once it's in there. So I'll know next time that I can put a little more of that in. And I may kind of meet halfway and do one of my sauce ingredients be non or low sodium and the other one just be normal. So I kind of raise the sodium to the midway level instead of full bore. You know what I mean? But it
So
was
make
my
one of your cans regular, and the is that
yes,
what you just said? And the other,
yes, yeah. Instead of both being low sodium,
yeah,
I'll do one half and half.
you got to wean off of it.
Yeah, just to give me some. And look, I try to tell myself that because it tells you on the can like how much percentage of daily sodium. But you got to figure I don't eat the whole thing because the leftovers. I never eat all the leftovers. Number one, so I don't end up eating the whole can at all. And I split it with 3 meals. So you know
Mhm.
what I mean. So I'm getting a third, less than a third. I'm probably only getting a quarter of what that says
Right.
each meal. Um, so yeah, I'll probably do that next time. Um, yeah, so that's kind of yeah. I made my spaghetti this week, and we were talking earlier before we came on. We've got the Chris Moore coming into the area, and there are still some tickets left over for the event down in Oxford this Thursday at 5:30. So anybody listening was to go on the Oxford Community Center website and buy your tickets. They're $10. It's gonna be a great time. Chris is gonna talk about the movie industry, some fun stories, and kind of how streaming has kind of changed how the movie industry is kind of has to kind of pivot and do some different things. So that'll be pretty cool. So
Well, what's interesting about what he's trying to do is, he said in the past the way that the consumers could, give Hollywood feedback really was to buy tickets to movies, right?
yeah,
So since the landscape has changed with streaming, and we all know things have really changed with COVID, there's really no way. Hollywood's making some assumptions and throwing some darts at some targets and seeing if they stick and land. But it's interesting. Chris wants to explain how things work to
right,
Joe Citizen and then get some real feedback to
yeah,
take back. Because, what is our deal? Like I thought it's interesting. My now newly 18-year-old said, actually, he thinks people would like to see some original content. Yeah, we all like the Marvels and the Star Wars and all, but he thinks people would, and he thinks we've made movies too long now. Like, we're assuming that people want to sit there for 2 hours and 40 minutes or
right.
3 hours, and he thinks that's way too long. That we need to go back to what we were used to,
Yeah,
the hour and a half.
like 2 hours was like the standard for a movie. Like that was, and like it went from the theaters to TV. It was on for 2 hours, like on the button.
Yeah.
Um, there doesn't seem, yeah. I would tend to agree with that for the most part. There have been some movies that were a little bit longer, but they didn't feel longer because you were you were on the edge of your seat the entire time, and you almost didn't want them to stop. But yeah, I would
Oh,
say for the majority of the longer movies, that's probably true.
I think it would be an interesting thing if anybody is in the local listening area and they could go to Oxford Community Center and see him. We'll be there Thursday
Yep,
night,
yep,
at 5:30.
yep,
It's a $10 admission fee to get in, but definitely worth it. Good community event here, like you said. Here's some good stuff from Hollywood, and it just gives you a different perspective. I mean, I feel like we've heard a lot about the music industry and that how streaming has changed that, and obviously we see a lot of our favorite entertainers out on tour to maybe
right,
recoup some of that. But
yeah,
in movies they can't do that.
yeah,
So Chris is trying to really explain how what's
yeah.
going on there on that scene and see what
Kind of
people.
talk to the audience and say, hey, what can we do? What can the movie industry do to get people to keep going to the theaters? I don't think anybody's trying to put streaming out of business. They're just trying to figure out a way to coexist. And I'm not trying to speak for Chris. He'll I'm sure, talk about more about this Thursday. But yeah,
Well, we were talking about, and of course, movies is at the end of our thing, but even Wicked, they've done a terrific job of marketing that, right?
yeah.
You've got Lego sets that are Wicked and costumes, and Target has a whole Wicked thing. I mean, Starbucks, it's just
Well,
everywhere.
yeah. Here's the funny thing about that, and yeah, we'll get into this a little bit more at the end because we're both going to see that this weekend. Wicked's not an original story.
That's
It's
true too, right?
um, but it's probably the most, especially for anyone in our generation and older, maybe the generation, maybe slightly younger than us. Like the original Wizard of Oz with Judy Garland was like that's as timeless and as classic as you can possibly get. It just there's so
Right,
many elements to that. So um, Broadway took it and kind of said, "Well, here's kind of what happens before." And even on the previews that I've seen in the movie theater, it says this is what happens before Dorothy lands in Oz.
right.
Have you ever wondered what happened? What was going on in Oz before Dorothy landed? Well, here's what happened.
Yeah,
Um, so that's cool. It's a prequel, um,
yeah,
and you know me. I love music and I love movies, but I don't like musicals generally speaking. This one might be a little bit different because I love the first one, and the first one was really a musical because they sang throughout the whole thing.
I never really thought about that.
I mean, every time she made a new character, they sang. When she got to the Emerald City, they sang.
Follow the yellow brick road.
When she was, somewhere over the rainbow, I mean,
Oh yeah,
she sang the whole movie. But
I never really thought about it.
that's good for me. That's good because I don't want to be, like with the most recent Joker movie. They made that musical, did not work. We're getting ahead of ourselves with
Oh
talking
yeah.
about movies.
All right. Look, we got excited.
Yeah.
Topic.
So
T, T, T,
so
T.
yeah. So yeah. Kathy wanted to talk about something that's kind of near and dear to her heart, and she's kind of got me hooked on this, making hot tea. So I'm going to let Kathy kind of intro this and kind of, talk a little bit about why she wanted to talk about tea.
I should. I want to talk about tea because it's probably I probably have a tea problem. I just probably have a problem. Um, but it's something that's really a big self-care, big self-care hobby. I would call it a hobby for me at this point.
Yeah.
It's something that reminds me of childhood. Um, our family drank hot tea and cold tea. Cold tea was kind of a staple that my mom made, probably of Lipton tea bags, and it was in the refrigerator. And
Yeah.
people still to this day will be like, "Oh yeah, I want to taste your mom. I need some of your mom's tea. Do you make your teas like your mom? That's
Yeah.
in the fridge, whatever." She might have spit in it. I don't know, but then if you wanted a treat, then mom would have brewed up something. It was probably still Lipton at that point back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And it had some cream and sugar in it. Now you got a treat.
Yeah.
Almost in my house, it was like hot chocolate, even though we did do hot chocolate. Um, so it was always a comfort thing for me. And then as I got into my adult life, it carried on. And then I became like a bit of a connoisseur of tea, where I'd go, well, now I'm going to buy loose tea and I'm going to experiment with this tea and I can't stand that tea. And it's become a real hobby for me to figure out what it is that I like. And then it became a cup thing. I realized that I prefer drinking out of ceramic or glass, even though I'll drink it out of anything, but I feel
Right.
like the taste is different if it's in
Yeah.
ceramic or glass. I can drink it out of the metal, Yeti cups, but I then can pick up a little metal taste. So, I've gotten really bougie in my tea experience, and now I'm a tea pusher. As I do, right? I'm like,
You
oh,
and
and
I.
now, Jay, I roll it. I feel like I'm doing something illegal. Now I've found these bags, and Marty refuses to do it. He's like, "What? This is too much." I'm like, "No, no. You just dip your little teaspoon in there, and you dip it in this little homemade bag, and you put it in the cup. It's like a homemade tea bag.
Mm-hmm.
I roll my own." But I feel like, and that loose tea is better tasting to me. And then my latest that I found is blue tea. And of course, I'm putting that in glass because it literally turns the cup an amazing color blue. Or
Yeah.
sometimes it goes a little green. And they say if you put lemon in it, it can turn purple. I haven't tried the purple experiment
Right.
yet. So that's kind of my entry point here about tea.
So it's interesting. When we talked about doing this for this episode tonight, I reached out on social media earlier
Mm.
today, and I simply said, "Coffee or tea? Let me know your thoughts." And it was really interesting because let me back up for a second. So it was about this time last year that you got me into doing hot tea. I've always been a cold sweet tea lover to my detriment. It was one of my vices before I
Yeah.
had some health issues. I just drank sweet tea all the time. So I'm very conditioned to black tea. Like just like that's kind of what I think of in my mind as tea. Um, and I'm really what I do is I do the English breakfast tea because it's a black tea, and I kind of have as Jay tends to do has this very stringent routine of the first thing I do when I get to work is make myself a cup of hot tea, and it's that 10 or 15, that few minutes of making the tea, and then the little bit of time, you kind of sip on it as it cools down. It's cool enough to start drinking, but it's that 20 to 30 minutes total encapsulated with, making it and then letting the tea bag kind of sit in hot water for a little while and then drinking it. That it kind of, and someone even said this on social media today. it kind of centers me in the moment. It's I think the two things that we are so guilty of thinking of more than anything else is the past and the future. We are very
Mhm.
seldom in the moment.
Yeah.
We're always in the past, stuck in the past, or always worried about the future. We don't stop whatever the activity is. So it without really intending it to do this, it's just that start of my work day where I'm centered in the moment, make the tea, and I just do honey. That's all I do. I do two teaspoons of honey in mine. Um, you brought me in some others to try. They weren't bad, but I still lean towards. I just think I'm just so conditioned to like the my taste buds are conditioned to the black tea that I tend to lean that way. Not to say that if I were to try something else, I may not like it, but um, yeah, and we'll get into this a little bit after we kind of specifically talk about tea. But it's not just about the tea itself. It's about, and one of the reasons why I was so excited to do this topic, not just because I'm now a tea lover, but it's that something as simple as making a hot cup of tea. It's not time consuming. It's not difficult, but something so small and seemingly you know, kind of insignificant or in the background, like you said, can be self care. Even if it's just like in my case, the whole process only takes 20 minutes, maybe start heating the water up to finishing off the cup, 20 to 30 minutes. But it's easy. It's not difficult, and I think one of the misconceptions of self care, like we've talked about before, Kathy, is that it's so time consuming. There are
Right.
these big things that are hours long, and some of them are. But something as simple as making a hot cup of tea, or having that cup of coffee in the morning, and people that were reaching out on social media today, there was a common theme in that whichever their choice was, because I would say, well, why do you choose that? And they would say, well, it makes me feel X, Y, and Z, or it does this for me. Like their mind was connected to that beverage, whatever it was, whatever their choice was. That's self care. It puts you in a better mindset for that 20 or 30 minutes, or whatever. It starts your day, or whatever your timing is. So,
Well, I have a
yes,
whole tea family, and if I look around, because I know I might as well just say, I'm making tea. Does anybody want it? Because if not, I come back and get a cup, then I'm going to be going making it. And they swear I make it better than they do. So I'm like, does anybody want tea? And I see the smiles.
because they know you're going to make it no matter what. So they're like, oh, yeah, I know
Yeah.
mom's going to make tea, so I'm going to have some tea.
But, I feel like you use the glass pot too, right?
I
The
actually do. Well, at work, I do the microwave. I literally put water in my mug and do the microwave.
Have you done the kettle, the glass kettle that you plug in?
Uh-uh.
I feel like that adds a whole nother thing to it. This might sound silly as can be, but I do have a pot that I used to use on my stove that when it whistled,
Yeah,
that was my routine.
that's what I
It,
do at home. Yeah,
the whistling kettle. But then I moved to the glass electric pots, and they all have a ring of color in the bottom. Like mine's blue. So plug it in and turn it on, and it's this blue water, from the light, and then you watch it bubble. So that's become another part of it is
right.
watching
Yeah,
the water.
you've
So
added you've added graphics to your tea
I've had
experience.
hey,
You
and
got
that
some production value.
yes. So I think you should have a pot at the store that you plug in and watch it bubble.
I could do that, yeah, because but I don't not having a stove. That's why I've been doing it in the microwave. I just pop it
So
through.
it's I feel like it tastes different. It's great. You
Yeah,
could heat it up in the microwave after you talk to a customer and let it cool off. But it's just and it boils it just better, I think. It makes it a temperature that melts the tea or whatever.
yeah.
That's not the correct word. Processes the tea. I think it gets it to a higher temp than the
Now, when
microwave.
I do it at home, when I use the pot, like you say, and it
Yeah.
bowls and whistles. See, I used to drink. I used to eat oatmeal, the instant oatmeal a lot,
Mm-hmm,
and I would do the
mm-hmm.
same thing. And there's something about that whole whistling pot that's
Yeah.
like your plugged in glass thing. It's like me with the whistling pot. It kind of takes me back to childhood because I remember
Yeah.
that was like one of the first things besides making a bowl of cereal when you're a kid, which is easy. But
That you
like that
could do
was
yourself,
yes,
right?
that was one of the. It was like one of the like harder things.
Yeah.
Like a
Now I'm a
more
chef.
fancier breakfast as your kid was putting a pot on the stove and listening to it whistle. You
And
thought
you
that
put
was
the
the
pressure
coolest thing.
cooker on. You're mixing stuff now.
But yeah, so but not
Yeah.
only there's actually health benefits, and I know you pulled up an article. You
Hmm.
did a little book report on kind of what there are
Right.
different health benefits to different types of tea. Oh yeah. Well, you know what? I was thinking about this earlier, Kathy, when I was at work. You kind of are a tea connoisseur, like people like wine, like
Oh,
people
100%.
like if you could go to like wherever it is that they process the tea that they make tea bags with, you would you would do that for a vacation. I could see you doing that.
I would. I'm
Instead
gonna
of a
take
wine, instead of a winery, you would go do that. You would see that
actually,
happen.
yeah, but we gotta invent this. Gee, maybe we need to invent the tea experience.
Well, here's a question, and I know tea. Now, speak. The comparison of wine. Like we have local wineries here, and like Triple Creek grows their own grapes, like right here in this area. Like to me, I didn't realize that you could make one. There was like I always thought that there was very specific climate places in
Regions.
yes that were better, whether
Yeah.
it's Napa Valley or whether it's France or Argentina, wherever that were like better served to make wine. And I'm sure in some
Sure
ways
there
those
it is.
places are still better. I I wonder if teas like that, where there are just
Oh, it is.
specific places
China,
for.
Sri Lanka, India. Oh yeah, there's regions of certain tea leaves are grown.
But my question is there any place in the United States that does tea?
You would think I would know that. You would think I would know
Because
that. It's like
Lipton is a U.S. country, or do they just import all their tea leaves from overseas?
you would think I would know that. Now I need to do my homework on
You
that.
didn't do a complete book report.
I'm really now you got me thinking. It's like for example, I've been to Maine over the last couple years a couple times, and I found this tea company in Maine that I like, and I've bought it there, and I've ordered it from them. But it's called the Bar Harbor Tea Company, and they had made a they made it. They claim they've made it. It's a sweet almond tea. It's a black tea, but they've put almond in it, and it's
Right.
got to have some flavoring because it does have a. I think I've let you try it, but
Yep.
I think you liked it actually. But they claim that they have made it. So what are they doing? Are they taking and drying out the leaves themselves? And I don't know. That's why I
Right.
had to find that answer out now.
Yeah. It would be interesting to see if there's anywhere. There probably is. My second question would then be, what's the closest one to here? Because, like I said, now we literally have a winery 10 minutes away. Like it grows their own grapes, and they make good wine. I'm no wine connoisseur by any means, but
It's looking at history, and it's like China is the some of the first where you first started caring about tea,
yeah,
and they used it really for medicinal purposes. And then the British made the afternoon tea, and I was reading about the Brits, and I'm like, you know what, they invented tea self-care, because they're like, okay, let's do something in the afternoon, give a little work break, you know and that, to me, then that they were doing self-care, right? They
yeah.
were bringing tea in. It kind of people regrouped. Maybe they were with other people. Maybe they had a little snack. And anyway, I think that
They probably got their tea from India back then because India used to be an English colony before they became
probably
independent.
right. But
So
they claim that these afternoon teas were kind of a break, right? A
yeah,
break from routine. So
yep,
to me, my British friends created the self-care portion
yeah.
of tea.
And I'm partial to the English breakfast tea anyway. So
Well, and you say I am also I prefer black tea as well over, because think about it, there's different kinds. We all know there's green tea, which is definitely a little more grassy,
yeah,
and I can only tolerate certain kinds of green tea. There's some where I'm like, oh no, but when I find one, I know I can only have that really with honey. I prefer it with honey. I don't put any milk in it. Don't I can do sugar, but I like, and that's a whole nother thing. I don't use white sugar. I will use sugar in the raw. Um, like I think that it's less processed. I don't know. I mean, it is less processed, but is it
Right.
better for you? I guess that's argue. You could argue that,
Yeah.
but that puts a little more molassesy. That's even. Did I make up a word? Type of flavor to me in my tea. But there's the black, there's the green, there's oolong, which is kind of in between black and green. Really, all the tea is green tea. It's just different. It's just, or the tea is from the same. It's the same thing. It's just how much you process it, right?
Yeah.
Like there's white tea that's more the bud, and then the green tea that's not as fermented, I guess, and then the black tea
It's the leaves. Yeah.
it's the leaves. But and then they have that. I always say this wrong. Rooibos, the
Never
red
heard of
tea.
it. Never heard of it.
That one's hard for me. It's healthy. It's red. It's a red tea. But that one's a little hard for me. I feel like I'm taking bark.
Isn't there something called an orange pico tea?
Oh yeah, that's a black tea.
Okay. Why is it orange? Is just something the orange zest in it or something?
I don't know. A lot of teas do put orange, something from orange, and then like
Yeah.
I had one. I have one that I'm on right now that is
Citrusy.
definitely
Yeah.
a black tea, but it does have some vanilla. Like they like to put vanilla in them and orange and but they're not considered herbal tea. That's a whole nother thing too. Herbal.
Right.
No, I'm not as big a fan personally of herbal teas.
Well, let me ask you
Try.
this. And it's funny. Um, and I remember this. I'm a big Star Trek fan, and Captain Picard drank Earl Grey tea all the time.
I like Earl Grey.
Is it a black tea?
It is a black tea. It
What's
just
the
has
what's the
you've had
difference
Earl.
between? I don't think so. That's why I'm asking. What's the difference between that and an English breakfast tea?
It it it's really taste for me. Some of it'll have like, and I may say this wrong, bergamot in it. It's something else that's added to it, and you can pick it up. Like I could pick up Earl Grey anywhere. I could tell if it. I can probably tell you what most teas are at this point.
Right. Yeah.
If it's an oolong, I can tell. And then there's color. You can eyeball things and tell. Um, but it's just trying different things. And the cool thing about a lot of these companies, because like Annapolis has that tea and spice exchange on Main Street. Have you ever been that? And
Mm-mm.
that's a fun store, and I go crazy in there. But that usually isn't. You'll find that in a lot of cities, the tea and spice exchange. And you buy loose tea, you can buy salt, sugars. Like if you're a barbecuer, there's different spices. But I've tried a lot of teas there. There's a couple of oolongs. I go there for oolong tea. They have a red oolong that I really like. They have another that's like Iron Goddess of Mercy. I don't know if that's just something they call it, but
Yeah.
and the oolongs are different, and and sometimes I'm in the mood for oolong, which, yeah, like I said, is in between. The white is good. The white can be rare and it can be a little more expensive, um, but yeah, it's good stuff. And I think if you can I've been trying to behave myself a little more and not put as much cream and sugar. Like try to cream and sugar is good. When I want to dessert it up, but when I just want to taste the tea, I tend to just be, with my sugar. But I
Yeah.
will drink some without anything.
Yeah.
What you in the mood for?
I've never been. It's funny. I love. You remember the old A&P
Yeah.
grocery store, and even when it became Super Fresh, there where the Amish market is now, they had an aisle where you could grind your own coffee grinds.
Oh yeah,
And I
that's
used to love the smell of that aisle. I've never been a big taste fan of the taste of coffee, but I love the smell of like coffee brewing or especially like grinding coffee. I love that smell.
I like the
Now
smell too. I don't like to drink it, but I like the smell of
I'm the
it.
same way. Um, but I tell you, I'm I'm a pretty simple guy. I mean, although I will try anything food and beverage wise, like once I kind of find something, I'm usually pretty simple. Like I only do honey in mine. Um, and I kind of had to. I tried 1 teaspoon, like hardly even taste any honey. And then I said, well, let me go all the way in the other direction. I did three, and it was just like all I taste is honey, and I'm getting less of the tea. So I kind of
Yeah.
had to find for the size mug that I use. Found that 2 teaspoons is just about. It's actually 2 teaspoons and like a little bit of a squirt extra, like like as if that little squirt extra is, it's kind of like putting the period on the sentence.
Seals the deal.
Yep.
Now,
Um,
do you have different cups that you prefer, or
I,
you're
I,
not?
I just use my white ceramic Easter Shore Talk mug, um, the one that I took the picture of our logo for the podcast. That's the mug that I drink tea in every day.
I switch up all the time. Like, I'll have a different color one, I'll have a different shape. Sometimes I'll have sayings on them. It depends on my mood.
Yeah,
Shapes. It's a whole thing for me. It's a
yeah.
whole thing.
It's funny. I was certainly not a, I was totally up for trying hot tea. 'Cause, I mean, I had it before, so it wasn't like it was a brand new thing to me. But I didn't anticipate the self care ness of making a hot. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, and as I did it for a little while, like about a month in, I was like, wait a minute, this like this is like it's like a little mini event to start my workday. It's kind of like how movies is that big event that kicks off my weekend. Having my hot cup of tea every morning, Monday through Friday, for that 20 minutes or whatever it takes, is like the the opening credits to the movie. It's just it's like this cool part of it's and I'm very present in making the tea, and I'm OCD and very regimented and specific about. So it's like this total you know regiment every weekday when I'm at work. So it's kind of, and someone described it perfectly on social media today. They said it's just that thing that like centers me in the moment for a few minutes, and I'm like, you could have said that any perfectly. So yeah, the whole process of having a cup of coffee in the morning or a cup of hot tea or whatever it is it's very self care friendly.
And it's good for you, and that maybe we should talk about that part. I know
Yep,
you've read some stuff. I've read some stuff, but
yep.
and I don't know. Is anything 100%? This is sort of alternative medicine if you want to think about it.
I
But
think with anything, Kathy, it's what are the additives that may or may not be put into the product in the process of making tea? Who knows? The FDA only requires so much as far as what if your levels of anything is below a certain amount, they don't require you to put it on the label.
yeah,
Um, so it can kind of tea is a plant, so we think, oh, it comes from a plant, and you know there are probably certain brands you could probably take Earl Grey from manufacturer A and Earl Grey from manufacturer B, and they may have different additives and different good and bad to them. It's just like with anything, any kind of brand of the same thing are not always going to be the exact same.
that is true. But you can read, and it there's a lot of opinions about tea. It has less caffeine. Of course, you can get caffeine free too.
Yeah,
There's caffeine free tea, or like the herbal teas tend to be caffeine free, and this blue tea that I was drinking is caffeine free. Like, it doesn't, to me, I'm not affected by caffeine. I'm not somebody that's necessary. I still conk out. I could drink 3 cups and conk out, but um, there's a lot of there's a lot of information on tea, like that they have antioxidants in it. I guess that's the biggest thing.
most teas do. Yeah,
So that I like that, right? And I like the fact that they say, I read something that said, our body can have free radicals in it because of lots of things, the ultra processed food that we're eating, or the environment that we're breathing, or whatever. But that tea can actually help change our how our cells work, and that it possibly can help lower stroke, heart disease, cancer. I mean, there's a ton of things. Our cognitive decline can maybe be slowed. So I'm like, heck yeah, check, 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 check. So
Yeah.
Jay, when we're 152, we can be like, because we drank that
Yeah,
tea.
we drink that tea every day. Yeah.
Because we drank that darn tea. Here's other couple fun facts. 84% of tea consumption in the U.S. is black tea. Oh, I forgot to say too. It can also help with the plaque in our arteries, decrease
Mm.
it. Let's see, what else is good? Don't freeze it. Don't refrigerate it. Some people like to do that with their coffee. Don't do that. And they said tea can go bad. Like I can tell that my tea from Maine, it starts to lose some of its almond flavor after a while. So keep it away from. Don't put it in the heat. Don't let moisture get in it. It will absorb odors. If you put it next to the bag of garlic,
Yeah.
that's probably not a good idea. Um, put the loose tea. All of it really should be in airtight containers.
Yep.
Um, Another fun fact: May 21st is International Tea Day. We'll have
I
we'll have to celebrate
have
that.
to remember that.
And then I found this cool little information sheet that said, okay, so herbal teas tend to help with our congestion, asthma, the lung kind of stuff, the cold stuff. Um, Peppermint tea helps us with digestion. Ginger tea with nausea, vomiting. Chamomile, I cannot do chamomile. I have an allergic reaction personally. Chamomile helps with sleep and immune support. I never heard of hibiscus tea, but hibiscus can help lower blood pressure. Fennel tea, I haven't heard of that. Helps with menopause symptoms. And then, of course, it promotes relaxation. It reduces stress. It's a form of hydration. And they said it can even help our skin with protection from UV radiation and pollution. I was shocked at that. I didn't know that. So that's some of the health benefits I heard.
Yeah, you're saying all the ones that I had pulled up, and
Yeah.
one that was added on my Google search was lemon tea,
Ah,
and obviously it contains vitamin C, helps fight inflammation and boost the immune system. So um, it was interesting how each tea antioxidants are pretty. Tea is kind of generally known for that,
yeah.
but each one has a specific thing that it kind of can help with, whether it's
And we need that. We need those antioxidants. I really
yeah.
believe that we need that. Just like you need the dark green vegetables and the blueberries and the dark colored things.
And I think part of, well, it certainly can't help is that, when you make a cup of tea, it's water, and water just helps you flush the bad stuff out of you. That's why they
Right.
say, one of the reasons why they say stay hydrated. Not that you'd ever think of drinking a cup of tea, hot tea, for hydration, but the law of physics still applies. It's still water, whether it's in a bottle that you are drinking after a workout or whether it's a cup of hot tea in the morning. It's still part of that flushing of the bad stuff, and the antioxidants just kind of are the things that help target the bad stuff, the bad chemicals in your body, and kind of help the water kind of helps flush everything out.
I did read that bottle tea though. There's a lot of processing maybe in the bottle tea, so not as good as if you can brew it home and bag your own tea bags like I do. But I did learn one thing when I was reading. Check this out. They say, I don't know how you are, but sometimes I'll brew, and then I'm into a couple teapots as well. I've got the whole thing. I think I really do have a problem. But anyway, I have now this clear teapot, and technically it's probably 2.5 cup, 2.5. It could serve like 2.5 people. So
Yeah.
there's some left over. But this is saying if you have leftover, and then you may not how you're doing it, but if there's leftover tea, they said you can totally use it like to marinate meat,
Mm.
chicken, steak. That you can use it for making like brown rice and couscous, things like that. I've never heard that, but they
That
said it's healthy for you. And
makes
then,
sense. Yeah.
right? So I might try that.
I've heard of people using coffee to marinate meat with, so it kind of
Really?
makes it. Yeah, I've never done it. I would not personally think to do that, but
I wouldn't have,
I've heard of people doing that. Yeah, with
but
coffee.
I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. I found a new company. I told you about the tea and spice company. And all these places have online orders too. Um, I was into my Bar Harbor tea. There's a Adagio.
Adagio, yeah.
Adagio, is that it? I've ordered from that, and my latest one's called the Tea Spot, and they've got some really cute stuff. I ordered this holiday collection, and it had 3 in it. It had candy cane, cinnamon spice maybe, and naughty and nice.
Pumpkin
So
latte tea.
yes, but the naughty and nice is so good. Oh my gosh, it's good.
Cool.
So they package it to people like me that's going to spend money, and
Yeah,
oh,
the connoisseurs, yeah, of course. I'm sure, I know this might sound like a very obvious question to you. There are probably like tea memberships or
there are.
tea of the month clubs
There
or,
is.
yeah.
And I haven't done any of them. Aren't you surprised? I haven't. Like, I'll order samples of stuff. Like right now from the Tea Spot, I have this black tea sampler. So
Yeah.
in it is English breakfast, the Earl Grey, and then it has an orange pekoe, which is they're all black tea. It has something called boulder.
That's the tea police calling.
What's the tea place called?
You've maxed out your tea quota for your lifetime. No more tea.
It's fine. Like, have you been hacked? Have you been hacked? Um, yeah. But it's so fun. It makes me happy that you like it.
Yeah,
It makes me happy to push tea.
I mean, it kind of look. I've already eaten breakfast by the time I get to work, so it's not like I use it as part of my breakfast. It's kind of dessert for my breakfast that I ate at home before I went to work.
So one of these tea companies need to hire us on, Jay, so we can like promote them. We just promote
Yeah,
them.
we need to have a tea sponsor. We need to have a tea company be our sponsor.
We do need a tea sponsor.
So if anybody out there that's listening knows of a tea company, local or otherwise,
we're your team.
Hook us up. We can definitely be.
We can sell for you.
We can be some pushers of some tea.
All right. Do you want to hear something funny? This weekend when my family was at my brother and his family, so I'd gotten my current stash from the Tea Spot, and I had 4 cups of tea. And I was okay, here we go. So I had a soup ladle, like a little soup ladle, and I gave Marty this little baby cup, and I was like, all right, we're doing a sampling. And
you're doing coffee tea shots.
Try this. And he's like, what is it? And I'm like, no, tell me what you feel. And then my sister-in-law was like, boy, Cathy, things have changed. You've gone to a flight of tea. A flight of beer or a flight of wine. I was like, wow. So flights of tea.
Yeah. When you were talking about the black tea sampler, I could actually get into that because, like I said earlier, I kind of lean towards black tea, as 84% of America seems to.
Now I know what to get you for Christmas.
So I could definitely. I'm gonna have to do some investigating. Maybe go to Harris Teeter and look at some. Yeah.
You need to let me hook you up. You need to trust your partner here.
I tend to like. I don't want bland or tart. I want if you're going to lean away, I would lean towards the sweeter side. If that's even a thing in the tea world, just like
no, it is because there's some that pick up like some chocolate tones. I mean, yeah, it's just weird how some different flavors come in, and some are really strong. There's one, and I'm not even going to try to murder and say it, but it's like. It starts with a P. It's like I'm not even gonna say it. I don't even know.
Pomegranate tea.
No, but it's a strong. So some are definitely stronger.
Yeah.
You can get more flavor out of, but
yeah. The English breakfast tea is fairly light. It's not super strong. And maybe the honey kind of cuts that a little bit because I kind of
English that my kids prefer that. That's a real safe. That English breakfast is safe.
That's basics. Like that's T101. It's English breakfast.
But I feel like it's a step above your basic Lipton tea bag.
Yeah.
English breakfast to me, that's your next safe. You're leaning toward the bougie end.
Gotcha. I'm at 102 level.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm at the 102 level class.
But now I get snobby. God bless Lipton. I'll drink them for cold tea, but I'm like, I can't hot tea them. So
Yeah.
then I'll take my tea back, and it's bad. Like this conference I went to, I took a I took a couple tea bags in my because they had this organic English breakfast, and I put it in my bag. And this guy said, "Oh," and I was like, "Because they don't have it in the room. They've got bad tea in the room.
Yeah.
I'm taking it back. Don't judge me."
So yeah, Kathy and I both recommend anybody listening for self care to try a good cup of hot tea, whether it's in the morning, in the evening, whatever, um, and just kind of sit in the process of doing it. Kind of take the whole thing in, and hopefully it'll kind of center your mind in the moment. And
And if you want to get into it, I can give you the Cathy recommendation starter packet.
Kathy is like the Siskel Ebert for tea.
Yes.
um, so yeah, so let's kind of switch a little bit and talk about what we've been watching lately. So we were talking earlier before we came on. You guys are starting to catch back up with Outer Banks.
Yeah, we are such a huge Outer Banks fan house, right? And um all of us are watching it right now. All six of us, and I guess there's 10 episodes of the new one, and I'm 4 down. I think some of my kids are 6 down right now, and I'm so irritated because I feel like, social media knows what you're up to. So then I don't see anything until I start watching Outer Banks, and then I'll start seeing stuff. I'm like, no, no, no,
Yep.
no. Don't tell me. But and I know there's mixed reviews on it. Like some people have been disappointed. I think you had indicated that you maybe were disappointed, but not
Yep.
us. We're like, we love it. We're like, wow, you know,
I,
we
uh,
really, really love those characters.
I think part of it is that I found, we talked to Chris about this when he was on, how there had been such a long hiatus between the last time we saw Outer Banks and when the new season was released, that A, they all seemed like they were 10 years older. B, it didn't feel the same. And that character, JJ, he triggers me because I'm just like, this kid, I get it, he's had a hard life, but he doesn't want to listen to anybody. He just, yeah, he just frustrates me.
See, there you go. That's a different take. You and I, same show, different take on it. I really like it, and you're like, eh. But that's the cool thing about stuff, right?
Yeah, I watched, I think, the first 2 or 3 episodes, and I'm just like, this doesn't feel the same as like when they were on the treasure hunt the first time. This is a whole new. It just, I don't
You know,
know.
I did, and I'm not giving anything away with this, but there's a big Blackbeard theme, right,
Yeah,
with this
yep,
series,
yep.
and then I started looking up Blackbeard, and I mean,
Who's a real
what
person, by the way? Yeah,
he's like the top bad
pirate.
pirate.
Yeah,
And then he has some ties up our own Chesapeake Bay. And
yeah,
I think there might even be some tours in Annapolis of like,
yeah.
Blackbeard may have stomped around here. So but what I had not remembered about Blackbeard is even though he was like the most evil pirate, I guess he got his crap together at some point and then he decided to chill out with his 14th wife and then settle in North Carolina. And that's where he
Mm,
got like shot and beheaded and they bring
yeah.
his head back up
They caught up to him. Yeah,
the river. But anyway, the pirate stuff's so interesting to me.
yeah. So I've been doing the voice. I try to remind you every Monday. It doesn't seem
Wow.
to work, but you guys turned on Outer Banks last night instead, so that's cool. But if any of you guys are watching this season of The Voice, what I'm talking about when I say that it's been a tearjerker for me. Like everybody all the judges cry. They're crying in rehearsals when they're just rehearsing these songs, and you got Sting and Jennifer Hudson as the Mega Man
Are they
chorus.
still? They were
Yep,
still in it this week.
yep. And
Now will they stay? Will they stay as the?
no, they're done. Their part's done because now it's down after last night. Each judge has 5 people, so there's only
Okay.
20 contestants left. So now it's up to the public votes. From
Oh,
here
it
on
is.
out, yeah, here
I've
on
never
out,
gotten this far, Jay.
Here on out, it's live. They're live. They're live.
Oh, they weren't live.
No, that's
They
all
weren't.
recorded. They recorded that probably this past summer. Those are all recorded
I
sessions.
didn't. I thought they've already been live. So okay.
Nope.
So
Now is when the
next
lives start. The next
night or
next
next week?
no next Monday, because last
Okay.
night they whittled it down to the final 20. So
Okay.
each judge has five. So
And it'll go live.
the judges don't have any say. They can't save anybody anymore. It's all public votes from here on out.
But will they give feedback?
Yes,
Still?
and they still rehearse and help them pick songs and all that kind of
Okay.
stuff. Um, yeah, so it's live now, so it's interesting.
I didn't realize that it
Yep.
hasn't been yet. So that's kind of cool. Okay. So I need to really pay attention on Monday.
And I started watching, well, two things. I started watching Love Island Australia. You know, I love Love
You
Island,
like?
the US version. Well, Australia is my second favorite Love Island because there's a Love Island in like 10 different countries.
Uh,
It actually started in the UK, kind of like how The Office started in the UK, and then
I didn't know that either.
Love Island originated in the UK. But I actually like the Australia version better than the UK version. So the new season of that just started. So not only did I watch that, but I've been going back and watching the very first season of Love Island Australia and loving it. But
What got you knowing? What makes you like Australia version better?
it just well
Yeah.
their villa well the accents um, their villa's just real cooler looking. It's just like where they film it, like this house on the cliff overlooking like the it's on Mallorca, which is the island. It's an island in the Mediterranean off of Spain. So it's like
Mm.
this super fancy, and they're like on this cliff that overlooks like the
Oh
ocean, the
wow.
mountains and stuff. So it's like visually, it's just cool. Um, and this is gonna sound terrible, but like the people are just like better looking, like both men and women. It's just the cast is better looking. I mean, they're all young, so it is what it is. But
I have a friend that might agree with you that lives there. Just saying.
well, here's what I think is my favorite part of any of the Love Islands is watching someone 25 because they're like mid 20s typically. You watch them from the moment they walk into the villa to the end, and you can see them. You can see the light bulb go off at different times where they're starting to learn who they are. They're starting to figure out what they do and don't like in a relationship. You see them kind
Mhm.
of figure stuff out. I that's It's the same with The Voice or American Idol. When you see it, especially a young person who shows up at like with this one kid was 13. There was another one that's 17 on The Voice. You see them show up very talented at the beginning, but watch them get better and more comfortable and more confident, and just you see them like blossom as a person and as an artist. That's the part I love the most. It's like the same way with The Voice or with Love Island. But this other documentary I've been watching on Hulu is called The Age of Influence, and it's about social media influencers. And it's a series,
Mhm.
and it follows kind of these notorious uh, internet influencers. Anna Delvey was one of the ones that they're going to dive into. She was just on Dancing with the Stars. She got arrested for fraud. The first season, the first um, series of shows was about I can't remember her name, but she was like a super rich trust fund baby from New York whose father was super rich and didn't need for money, but she was scamming these people out of money for different things, and it had like 3 million followers, and how she kind of
Wow.
went to these Hollywood premieres and kind of got involved with certain celebrities, and so it kind of goes behind the scenes of the good and the bad of being a social media influencer. So
Who do they have a claim to who's like the first one?
they haven't really talked about that. They've kind of like focused on a specific person who had. Well, the first couple are about people who got in trouble with the law. But beyond that, I haven't really looked. And it actually came out last year, so the series is a year old or older. So I've been watching. It's just interesting to see how the social media and having millions of followers and how the desperation and the ends that these people go to maintain their following or to get their following and
Mm,
yeah, it's just the
that's a lot
human
of pressure.
psychology. Yeah, it's just. I mean, it's ridiculous, and it's
And I'm sure people can be so cruel and mean too.
yeah, it's just a lot involved in it. Just how this girl who would she would never have she could have lived her whole life and never needed money from any kind of working or she could have done any number of things, but there was just something about her psychologically that led her to like want to scam people out of money when she didn't need the money. It was about the
The
excitement of
game.
it. Yeah, whatever it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, just it was. It's just human psychology just fascinates me, and just why
exactly.
people do the things they do. It's just
Yeah,
fascinating, both good and bad. It just is.
I agree.
Um,
I agree.
and I went and saw Red One this past
Oh,
Friday. I liked it. Um, Above average movie. Didn't knock my socks off, but it was certainly a nice Christmassy based, different kind of Christmas story. Of course, The Rock is in it. Chris Evans are in it. They are the two main characters. J.K. Simmons plays Santa Claus. Um, yeah, it's a good. It's kind of a little bit marvelly. It kind of has some
mhm.
um, witchcraft in it, and superhero-y, mythological tones to it. So it's kind of cool in that way. I know you're going to see it at a Channel Marker movie day
Yeah,
in December.
December.
I think you guys will generally like it. I have been watching Agatha all day long or Agatha all along. I
Dang.
really like that, and I am so pleasantly surprised at how much I like that. It's so good.
I have to see that.
It's very Wizard of Oz like in that they're literally on what's called the Witch's Road, like the Yellow Brick
How many
Road.
episodes is that?
I want to say 9, and I've watched 3 or 4 so far, and I really like it.
Well,
I'm actually shocked that I like it as much as I do.
you don't think there'll be another season of that, do you? Are they
Probably
talking
not. I don't. I
working
just
on?
can't because remember it's an offshoot of
Yeah,
WandaVision, so it's already come from a
yeah.
different character. Um, but it's really good. It's just how they presented it, and like it's
It's
a
a
joke.
Marvel, right? It's a
It's a
Marvel.
Marvel. Yep, it's on Disney Plus, and remember the Scarlet Witch stole her powers and put her in a like a WandaVision world,
Yeah,
like she was in. And she realizes she's starting to discover that she's in this world, but she has no witch powers. But the only way to get her witch powers back is to go down what's called the Witch's Road. But she needs like earth, wind, fire, and water, each type of witch to go with her along this journey. And it's literally there's like these tasks, like you have to do this task to get this one step. You have to keep taking these steps along the way and doing these different tasks. But it's very there's literally like this winding road through the forest that looks like the yellow brick road from the Wizard of Oz, the original Wizard of Oz. So it's so good. Um, yeah, so I've been watching that. Speaking of the Wizard of Oz, so looking forward to watching Wicked this Friday. I've
kicks
watched
off the season, huh?
I've watched a lot of the interviews that they've been doing, the press tour to promote the movie. It's just so cool. They keep releasing new new previews with new footage. Um, it just looks really good. And they were talking on the whole cast was on the Kelly Clarkson show and on her social media. They were saying that they filmed for almost a year, so
Mm,
the singers would have to like they were singing for a year. They would show up to work every day and have to sing for like pretty much a year.
wow.
So it was a really long process, the whole thing. Um, so I'm really this is one of the more looked forward to movies I've had in a while. Um, Just the whole.
Well, and it's a fun little girl movie. Even if little girls are like big girls like me,
Well,
I bought the witch the green witch outfit for Halloween.
yeah.
So it's dress up, and you can be good or bad, or if it even is that. I mean, I think they've tamed down that she's so horrible. That's the whole point of it, is that she's not. Or at least the Broadway show was that, is explaining she really wasn't horrible. It's just her
Yeah,
circumstances.
it looks like it explains how she becomes "quote unquote" the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's they've done a good job in the previews of saying, "Have you ever wondered what happened before Dorothy Van Den Oz? Well, this is what happened," and it
Yeah.
kind of lets us know, like,
I'm
so
curious if it's going to be like the Broadway show. If
because
it's going to be.
it seems as though, from what I've seen and what I've read, that there is this school for potential witches that people go to, and
Harry Potterish.
yes, it's like Hogwarts, but for witches of Oz. And Glinda and Elphaba, who is the Wicked Witch of the West, are in the school. They're friends. They kind of become partners in crime as far as getting through the school. And then if things go awry, Jeff Goldblum is the wizard, and
Slytherin and Gryffindor.
and things happen, and as we know the story, Glinda ends up as the Good Witch of the North, and Elphaba slash the Wicked Witch of the West ends up. The North and the South are the good witches, and the East and the West are the bad witches. So yeah, and apparently there's mention of the Wicked Witch of the East, and maybe we'll be introduced to who she was before Dorothy's house landed on her. I've not seen that. I'm kind of hoping that kind of gets filled in as part of the story. So we'll see. Um, Sold out. They've added a second screen. Cathy was slow in the draw to get her ticket,
I always am.
but they've added a second screen. So yeah, so and actually, if you end up going, you'll get the better time. I like the earlier of the 7 o'clock window movies. Like mine
Mm-hmm.
on Friday doesn't start till 7. I like when they start at 6:30. That
I
way
like
I
this.
can watch the movie and get home in time to watch 2020 or
Oh,
Date
wait,
Night.
wait, wait. So if I go Friday night, now I'm going to see it before you.
Yep, you will.
Interesting.
But I'll probably get to the theater before you do.
Oh, guaranteed.
I'll
Guaranteed.
be there right about, well, before your movie starts, because I get there 30 minutes
Hi.
prior, and you get there 45 seconds before the movie starts.
Coming in hot. Get my popcorn
So
rolling.
I'll be
Miss
in, I'll be in
Free.
my theater and probably by myself for a while.
I
Because
wouldn't even know what to do. I would do. I was going to ask you this because Chris asked me this. When you go see your movies on Friday night,
yep,
how full do you think the theater is these days? Does it depend on the
it
movie?
depends on the movie. Like with Red One, it was in the big screen, the biggest screen of all of the theaters, all the screens in Easton. It was probably 3/4 full.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's literally based solely on whatever movie it is. Because like they'll be when Barbie was here, man, they could have sold if Easton had had 1 million people in it, they would have sold 1 million tickets. Um, with Wicked, one screen is
Yeah.
sold out Friday and Saturday, so they've added a second screen.
Oh, Friday and Saturday?
Yep.
Really?
So you have to go to the 6:35, which is actually better, if to me. Um, so yeah,
Huh.
I've also had. Now this doesn't happen very often. I've always also had movies where it's been like 5 or 6 people, but that's because the movie. There's 6 screens in Easton, and I've seen the other 5, and the one is the one that I've been putting off because I wanted to see something else more than that one,
Yeah.
and
Dwindles down.
the window's down, so I'm at a movie that's not going to be very popular anyway, and they'll put it on screen one, which is actually in the lobby, and there'll be
Yeah.
like 5 or 6 people in a 45-seat theater.
Do they feel like they're doing a good job? I mean, do you think that for a smaller, we're not a small town, but we're not a big town either. Do you feel like the movie theater is holding its own?
I think ours probably does okay. it's really helped that they put the money into upgrading it. Like
You know what
it's really paid off.
my sister-in-law was saying, she lives, my brother and sister-in-law live in Pennsylvania, and they said they were really, she said, she's a big movie goer, they're big movie goers, but she said, Kathy, I may not watch Wicked at the movie theater. I'm so irritated at movie theaters. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And she said, when they went to see Beetlejuice, for example, her family, she said she could not believe the amount of adults that were on their cell phones. And I was like, I don't know that I noticed that here. Do you?
Nope, does not happen. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it doesn't happen at all, but it's um,
And people talking. She said people were talking and people were on cell phones. And I was like, I don't know that I've experienced it.
the only time it happens in Easton, with my experience, pretty much almost always it's when it's like teenagers, not like respectful movie going adults.
She said these were totally adults. And then she said she was discussing at the price, like their movie theater tickets were like $19 a piece. And then, all the food. She's like, I didn't want to go spend $200 on
Yeah.
a movie that may or may not be
Now
amazing.
I think that probably, although Easton's prices are still probably well below the national average,
Yeah.
their their concession prices have probably jumped up a little bit. And that's probably
Reflective of the
because
price.
we're not a huge city where they're going to fill this. You know what I mean? So they're making it up that way. Um, it's funny as you were talking, and it got it. And if I get a chance to talk to Chris Thursday, I'm going to ask him this question: like, are there too many movies being released? In other words,
We
Easton
talked about that.
Easton has 6 screens, and now like this week you've got Wicked on 2 screens, you've got Gladiator 2,
Oh
you've got
yeah.
Red One, so you've got three pretty one really big movie and two pretty big movies all at the same time.
Right.
And then the following week, Moana 2 comes out, which is pretty big.
Oh
So you're going to have, they'll be great. The next probably 2 or 3 weeks, a month maybe, they'll do great in Easton. Like they'll have full theater for the most part.
yeah.
Um, but that's rare. And the studios do that. They don't typically want to compete with the other another big movie, except for during the holidays where it just it's more of a holiday. It's more of a movie going time of year.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. But it's interesting how let's just say it's June in Easton and there's 6 screens. There might be one fairly big movie and the rest are like hit or miss.
Because
So
it used to be like one of my kids said, there used to be like summer blockbusters, and they're not seeming. Doesn't seem like you get that
right,
like you used to.
I think if Marvel had kept its momentum up after Endgame and more of their streaming shows had been more successful, then they would have been you would see more bigger stuff from them more often. Now some of their streaming stuff's been good. I like Loki.
Hawkeye.
I like Hawkeye. I really like Agatha. Surprisingly, some I like Deadpool and Wolverine a lot. So there have been some good stuff. I like the new Spider-Man, but more often than not, they didn't do well. Um, so you could have
Yeah.
counted on Marvel slash Disney to put out some bigger stuff more often if they had kind of kept up the momentum. But it was going to be hard to keep up that level of
Yeah.
literally $1 billion box office movies. I don't even think they anticipated that from
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
um,
True.
so yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, and hopefully we'll both see it. We can both report back to you guys
Yeah.
next week when we come back on. All right, guys, that'll do it this week for Easter Short Talk. We'll catch you next time. Take care, guys.